Welcome back to another edition of the WYO Business Spotlights. I am honored to have Ashley Bright with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Wyoming. Ashley, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Erik, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to share the Boys and Girls Club and my story today.
That's wonderful. It's an honor for us to have you. For the two people in Natrona County that doesn't know what the Boys and Girls Club is, can you tell us a little about the Boys and Girls Club, what you do, and what your role is with the Boys and Girls Club?
Sure. The mission of the Boys and Girls Club is to inspire and enable all young people, especially those kids who need us most, to help them realize their full potential as responsible, productive citizens. The Boys and Girls Club here in Central Wyoming, we were the first in Wyoming, and we started in 1969. There was a family that came from South Dakota that went to a boys club in Rapid City, and she arrived in Casper, and she said, well, let's gather people. We don't have a boys club here in Casper. Let's gather people. There's a need, and I know the background, and I can do the organizing. I can steer this effort. And so she gathered people like Bob Price, John P. Elbogen, and there's a documented list of historical people that live in Wyoming and that were right here in Casper to put together a boys club in 1969.
69, wow.
So we're 56 years old, and it's been incredibly exciting, incredibly impactful. Multiple transitional locations until in 1977, building the A Street facility which is now Youth for Christ. It's the link, but that was built as a Boys and Girls Club, and we operated out of that building since 2000, or from 77, 78 to 2003 until we broke ground on the Boys and Girls Club on K Street. So yes, I'm in my 35th year of Boys and Girls Club work as a professional. I started in Tacoma, Washington as a program director. And the story there is, and I'll just kind of give you a little bit of background on myself.
Sure, please do.
My dad was career military, so we lived all over the place. Every couple of years we were moving. And I think that really instilled in me a sense of wherever I had to go, I had to kind of introduce myself and make an impression and roll. And it really was foundational in terms of the personality and whatnot, to walk in and engage and mobilize quickly and let's go. And so, but I grew up in a Jewish home, and I was going through my bar mitzvah at age 13, and my parents divorced, and my dad moved overseas, and so I stayed with my mom. We were in Montana at the time, Great Falls, and I was way out there in the world, and I just got into everything. And being raised by a single parent in the teen years is too much for anybody. This parenting thing is definitely designed for two parents. And so I was way out there in the world, and I got into everything, and went to ended up graduating high school in Germany. So I moved from Montana. I had an opportunity to live with my dad in Germany, and then graduated high school at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. And then I went to school in Tacoma, Washington. I played soccer there, and that's where I started my career in youth development. But I didn't know where I was going to land for sure. So in Tacoma, there's Metro Parks of Tacoma, and they had neighborhood centers all over the community, all over the city, and so while I was going to school, crossing the finish line, went to a small college there, and crossed the finish line, and I was working for the Park District at one of the largest project housing areas west of the Mississippi. It's Alishan project housing area, and there's 5,800 individuals. And so I was programming in this project, and at that time in 89 and 90, there was the gang hype was at maybe its peak in terms of Bloods and Crips. So we had the Bloods on our side, and worked with some really significant, violent at-risk youth.
Okay.
And so I was working there, and then I started working at an elementary school as well, part-time, and just doing para type of stuff, still going to school, and then getting into this recreation platform. And the East Side Boys and Girls Club was about 9 blocks away from the project in Tacoma. And I would go over there and volunteer here and there. But most of my professional time at that time, and it was part-time, I mean, I was 18, 19, 20,
Right.
was right there in the project. So they recruited me to apply for a program director position at the East Side Boys and Girls Club. And that's really what launched my career. But on March 12th, 1990, right before the Boys and Girls Club offered me that position, I accepted Christ. March 12th, 1990, I received Jesus in my heart, born again, and that changed the trajectory of my whole life. And I met my wife a year later. She wasn't my wife then, but my wife now. And then the rest was history in terms of what happened in my life and the call that he had. And when I think of the Boys and Girls Club, it really has become a platform for ministry, for caring, for drive to build a beloved community and support those people that are around and teach and be a testimony.
Right. Since 1990, this is when it all started.
March 12th, 1990.
March 12th. All right. So you just hit your 35th.
Yeah, 35 years old.
35. That's great. So that's I had no idea. I didn't know your backstory at all. I just knew that you came from Tacoma, Washington. But,
Yes.
Montana is in the mix in there as well.
Right, it is. Yep.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you mentioned that in 1969 there was a boys club. When did it transition, or maybe it was the Boys and Girls Club, but when did it transition to the Boys and Girls Club?
So great question. So in 1990, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, that's when they changed their name. So the first boys club was 1860 in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And it was during the wartime. And the idea was the men are off the war, women stayed home and was caring for home, and the boys were running the streets. So what could we do for the boys? They need mentoring while the men are off to war. And so there was a gathering of volunteers, and the churches were all involved in this too, of bringing support, bringing mentors to the boys that were on the street, Hartford, Connecticut. So that was the first recognized boys club concept. In 1913, it became a federated model, and there was the first 50 recognized boys clubs around the country in 1913, and that launched this federated national model, which we're a local affiliate of Boys and Girls Clubs of America, but the local board is the 501c3. The local board is the entity of the organization, just like a 501c3 of a nonprofit.
Right.
We just have a membership to the national.
So it included girls at a later dates.
Yes. And what was happening was many boys clubs were starting to serve female members, and we were doing that here too. But we just kept the name as Boys Club.
Got it.
And so it all the way to 1990. So I started my career in 91 and in Tacoma. And I know people that were in that room at Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Boys Clubs of America at the time. And it was a fascinating discussion and debate, because you had the old boys club, we're the roots, and this is our foundation. And then you had people with different perspectives saying, but we're serving girls, and why don't we become Boys and Girls Club? So it was a back and forth, and history was made because it turned into Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Became what it is today. So, exactly. But I think at the heart of it, it sounds like the purpose was to, from what I understand, is to focus on the pandemic, unfortunately, of fatherless youth, whether they're girls or boys, And whether they're fatherless because their fathers are, serving overseas, or they're absent fathers, that is an incredibly important role in our society today.
Yes, yes. And in the same issues we were having in 1860, the same challenges we have. Mentor for young people,
Right.
Being there for the care for the orphan, being there doing practical ministry of food and clothing and service, and there's a word in Proverbs that I always have drawn into, and speaking life and death comes from the power of the tongue, and those that eat of it love its fruit, and
choose life.
So that constant mentoring, that encouragement is needed from and has been needed from the start of time.
Absolutely.
And that's what we can do, is pour into these kids, do practical ministry, find resources that they need, and then focus on the youth development of a young person.
Right. Thanks for watching today. These podcasts are powered by PayRock, and PayRock is a payment solutions provider. We work with any size business or nonprofit, improving those payment acceptance efficiencies while reducing those overall costs. You can get a hold of me through any one of those social media channels, or you can give me a call. Let's get back to that podcast. That verse in Proverbs is quite remarkable, because there's been a lot of scientific studies in the last several decades, not recently, but decades, about positive words and speaking life, speaking encouragement into your even inanimate objects. Sometimes the scientists will do these studies on speaking into things. I'm sure it sounds like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, oceanography and
right, exactly.
The casting of the sound from whales and dolphins can go for, I don't know the full mileage, but forever, and then the reach. So that may be something that we as believers will find that could be one of the most impactful things that we do. I mean, you think of just how guarding the tongue and how important that is, and the speaking against just the confession. I mean, we have to confess our faith. So the diction of our being, and how massive that is for the kingdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna find out, I believe, when we meet our Maker. He's gonna say, all those things that we were doing. Okay,
right. Absolutely. I think that what I've shared with my children when they were young is that no matter what we do, we're sowing, with our words. Right. If we sow negativity, if we sow a discouraging word, we're going to reap something. Right. So if we sow, either positivity or optimism or faith, or there's so many passages in the Bible about being an encourager to other people, but that doesn't always have to be spiritual or Christian. It is very important in everyday life to speak with confidence and speak with encouraging things that build people up, things like that.
Completely. And I mean, even the foundation of being kind, serving people, teaching, counseling, being there for the brokenhearted, foundational teaching in suicide prevention talks about asking questions. And so the words of our mouth are incredibly powerful.
They are, absolutely. I think, and even going back to these scientific studies, they look at families that would speak a disparaging word to their kids and calling them, I hate to use those words, but stupid or ignorant or what, all of these things. Their trajectory is forever changed. Yes, as opposed to those that they speak, encouraging words. Even if their child changes paths several times, they don't know what they want to do in life, because no kid knows exactly what they want to do, when they're an adult. But you speak encouraging words into their life, their entire life, and it definitely sets them on a path of success. I believe.
Yes, absolutely. And my wife and I, we didn't have role models within our parents in terms of marriage and whatnot. Both came from divorced homes and such. But we run to marriage counseling and marriage conferences, and so much of that is in the communication and making sure that we're listening to each other, and that we have good bounce back in terms of feedback with each
Absolutely.
other, and
Yeah.
that we're doing that regularly, and that it's a practice, but it all lays down exactly what you're saying.
Encouraging.
It all is in that end.
Absolutely. I think that we don't have to be broken, like you mentioned,
Right.
broken to go to like a counseling, because mental health is a real thing.
Right.
And you don't always have to be broken to be to learn how to speak the right way to our spouses, to our colleagues, to the people we're trying to work with. So continuing to learn the continual education of trying to learn how to speak to people is vitally important. We don't have to have mistakes or errors in order to work on that. We go to the doctor for checkups every year, these annual checkups, just to make sure we're in good health, or we do things to make sure we're in good health. I think mental health is the same thing, is we don't have to be broken.
No doubt about it. And I was asked by Dr. Corso to talk at a summit in Jackson, and the subject was on social media and the impact on young people. And it's exactly what we're talking about here too, is that social media just it really does consume the youth in a way that they're all of a sudden they're not verbalizing. They're not connecting. They're not communicating. They're not engaging with each other. They're engaging in social media. Dr. Haidt, who has written a book called Anxious Generation, talks about the spike of depression and suicidal tendencies from young people happened in 2010.
Oh, wow.
When the iPhone became so mainstream, and 168% more from 2010 to 2019. They saw a higher spike from 2010 to 2019 than they did from COVID from 2020 to where we are now.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
the
terrible.
iPhone, the social media consumption is playing a role into exactly what we're talking about in terms of not speaking and not engaging and not being able to verbalize encouragement.
I think technology is an amazing tool, and if we harness it as a tool, but it can also be something that isolates us, for sure. It isolates us from these connections that we can have with other people, and that's the value again of the Boys and Girls Club, to take it back to the Boys and Girls Club.
Exactly.
But it's true that just the attention span is dropped when they're spending their time scrolling, what they call it death scrolling or something like that. It's just these crazy things that our society has changed in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And it's drawing us apart from people when our strength has always been in community. Community is the life force of every civilization.
Yes. Do not forsake the people to come to an assembly together.
That's very true.
Is scriptural. And it's driving that. It's making more isolation than ever before.
All right.
And it's really cool. Our Boys and Girls Club in Buffalo, which started in 2003 as its own organization, and then in 2016 the boards ended up getting together. The organization in Buffalo and our organization, they were transitioning from leadership, and we put together a plan to acquire that Boys and Girls Club organization as part of Central Wyoming, and we hired a director that was an outdoorsman, and he created this program within the Boys and Girls Club in Buffalo called Club Unplugged.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. So the idea is that social media is out, and we're going to be outdoors, and we're gonna things in the club are going to be toward engagement, toward
That's great.
Us coming together and building relationships and friendships, and
developing community.
And exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up, because that was my next question about how do you have Boys and Girls Clubs in different counties in Central Wyoming. How do you tailor the programs? And I think you just alluded to that, to the different needs that are in different areas, because Buffalo's demographics, Buffalo's population is different than Casper, slightly, but still different. How do you do that? How do you manage the different people?
It's such a great question. I'm in Red Lodge, Montana. It's not one of our Boys and Girls Club, but they have a climbing wall, and they had one of the first climbing walls that I ever heard of in 2003, 2004. We were like, climbing wall? That wouldn't happen in New York City, Boys and Girls Club. So they really are tailored to the community needs and the community wants and the community values. And we talk to our teams in the communities, and we have board members represented from those communities serving on the Central Wyoming board, and then we have active advisory councils. And the advisory councils help. They're not governance, the advisory councils. They help us plan, evaluate, and help us raise funds and develop the organization. Mm-hmm. And so we do check-ins all the time on what are the trends in the community, how can we build it to the values of the community, as well as interest that youth will want to be a part of in the community. And so we do different things in different communities. Dubois, it's a lot of outdoors, hiking, exploration. Mm-hmm. In Buffalo, some of the same things, although we're in the community, mm-hmm. but similarly outdoors. In our club here, our flagship here, some of those North Casper kids have never even been out of their neighborhoods, and we hear that. Mm. And so we want to get those experiences going, building centered, but technology plays a little bit more of a role here than some, say, in Dubois and Buffalo. So it really does tailor to the community, and we serve a native population to a degree in Riverton, and so we have some collaborations with the tribes that bring in some different aspects that maybe we wouldn't do in the other clubs, and the fun, the academic success, healthy lifestyle programming, and career and leadership development are the primary outcomes of what we do in the Boys and Girls Club.
You just try to make those things relevant to the different people, and the different children in the different areas.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you recently acquired, I don't know, recently, you can give us the dates, but a 32,000 square foot location here in Casper. I guess you talked about your flagship, but you also recently acquired something in Glenrock. How do these new acquisitions bring challenges or also expand your reach?
Yeah. When you have your own facility, that's the very best in the community. We're so grateful for the school districts because they allow us to pilot the Boys and Girls Clubs in the communities. They offer us free space. There's no cost of the facility.
That's great.
Overhead and whatnot. So the school districts have been champions. Mm-hmm. So we typically start in the communities and schools. We did in Glenrock. We did in Riverton. We were in a facility in Buffalo that was tied to a school, and so that's typically how we do start our Boys and Girls Clubs. When we have the opportunity to have our own facility, it changes everything. All of a sudden, we have the identity is different, the community resources, the partnerships expand, the hours expand. We're able to do snacks and meals all of a sudden. We're able to have late night teen programming, summer. I mean, we can set our hours. We can set the dynamics of the programming. So that's always a build up whenever we start in the communities. In Glenrock, we started in 2000 and with a one-time $40,000 grant. And we really, truly operate out of the districts for all the way up until just a few years ago when the town and the county got together to build an 11,000 square foot building right next to the Glenrock Town Square, which is basically a David Street station in Glenrock, and people love it there. And they talk about the differences of David Street and this Town Square. And they're both amazing, amazing assets. So our Boys and Girls Club is right next to that. And it changes the game of what we can do in the communities when we have those facilities. Mm-hmm. But it's building those relationships. It's having the great board of directors. It always begins with the strongest boards. Mm-hmm. So in 1997, Roxanne Spillett from Boys and Girls Clubs of America, she was the first female president of Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Mm-hmm. She got a bunch of us around the country that were newer execs. So there's 30, 40 of us in the room. And she said, and I'll never forget it, and I was a young exec. I just landed in Great Falls, Montana. We just started an organization there, and she said, in order for us to move the needle and be the best we can be, we have to look at our positions like this. We have to have the strongest boards, then we have strong staff, then we have strong finances, then we have strong programs. And for me, coming from a big program background, because I started in a big Boys and Girls Club in Tacoma, that changed a lot of my thinking, because it always was, gotta have great, strong programs, but prioritizing having the strong board as a CEO, executive director, that was the number one key. So what we have been able to do over the years is have the strongest boards in the communities that we serve, the strongest stakeholders, those people that have influence, that can contribute, and are leaders in the communities that we serve. And that changed, again, the way that I took on the Boys and Girls Club positions, having such a strong program background.
Okay. So one of the numbers that I pulled was 3,000 members. Is that
yes.
here in central Wyoming, or is that in Wyoming? And then you're reaching 13,000 people.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Like, how big is the reach?
Yes. So the reach is central Wyoming. And so we have membership, and then we have the partners and the reach programming that we do. So we have the only financial literacy center in the state of Wyoming is WyoTown. I don't know if you've heard of it, Young American WyoTown. And we serve 8 counties, 4th and 5th graders in 8 different counties for WyoTown. So that's a reach. Now those kids don't have to necessarily be members of the Boys and Girls Club. So that's an example of a reach. And then we have over 30 partners that we interact with and that we program with over the year. And we have documented those services to those young people. We're very active in the schools right now, almost on a part-time to full-time basis with Career Works, our Career Works program, which is exploration and discovery of career readiness. And so we have staff in the schools consistently doing Career Works programming. And then we're engaged in all the youth sports at some level with the city partnership, and we're doing things with Wyo Sports Ranch, and so all of that encompasses the large reach.
Got it. So 13,000.
Yes.
Is that the most recent number?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That is
it's
huge.
amazing. It really is.
It is. And recently, Riverton, I read that you secured $2.5 million for the Riverton. Talk to us about that. What's happening in Riverton?
Yes. So we're campaigning in Riverton right now, and we had the opportunity when the school district there had to downsize their facility to ratio kid to teacher ratio and their facilities. And so they reached out to us and said, we will have an elementary school vacant. And it's one that we're operating out of. So it wasn't a mothballed facility. It was ready to go. And there was 150 elementary kids in that school last year. And she said, Jody Eyebaugh, she said, would you be interested? And we said, absolutely. There'll be a bid process, but we're absolutely interested. That will be amazing for us, and really we'll be able to scale out everything that we do in programming in the Riverton area. And so we had that opportunity to purchase that building, and we went for it. And so it was such a gift. I mean, we built the Boys and Girls Club here in Casper, and we broke ground in 2003. Clefcorn and Ballard, Mike Ballard and Gary Clefcorn said on the spot to Susie McMurray and I that we'll build this at cost. So we built that building at $90 a square foot. That building,
wow.
And now it's 36,000 square feet, and we renovated it. I mean, the spaces it's never looked better.
Right.
And so I never thought that we would have a $5.67 purchase of a 34,000 square foot building on 4 acres, right in the middle of Riverton, handed to us.
Right.
So we're serving 75% on average what we've ever done before on a day. I mean, we're doing things in the morning all the way up into the evening. And
right. But it's a testament to the impact you're having on for people to come up and say, hey, we're going to build this at cost, or, people that want to invest or donate money to it, it's a testament to what you're doing.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And Mick and Susie own the property. So when we broke ground in 2003, we opened in 2004, the K Street location, which is now 36,000 square feet. Well, Mick and Susie owned the property right behind us. And Mick over the years said, hey, I want to do something, brainstorm with me. It's like, wow, okay, this is a huge opportunity. Let's think about this. And meanwhile, the boxing club, Casper Boxing Club, was looking for, they were in a bunch of different transitional locations, but didn't have a home. And then Bill Daniels from who started the Daniels Fund in 2000, and are you familiar with the Daniels Fund?
No.
Okay, they're one of the largest foundation funds in our 5-state region from Colorado. Well, Bill Daniels was a cable TV pioneer, and he lived here in Casper. Well, the Daniels Fund wanted to build a regional boxing club because Bill Daniels believed in boxing so much, and he was a Golden Glove boxer, and he mentored boxers. So we had the Casper Boxing Club not having a home. Then we had the Daniels Fund, which we have a great partnership, saying, hey, we want to do this. And then Mick and Susie said, hey, we got this property. What can we? So I called up Mick, and it was classic. I said, Mick, I think I got an idea. I think I got a project. What do you think? Within 2 minutes, like, oh, I love it. Let's go. And so then fast forward, and we wanted to do something else besides a boxing club on that property, and that's where we built the Financial Literacy Center. So part of our campus has a boxing club and a Financial Literacy Center, and then there's a skate park that's right next to that currently right now.
So WyoTown is in your flagship.
Right. It's a separate building, and it's on the campus that we have.
Got it.
Yes, in that K Street area.
Talk to us about partnerships with local businesses. I know that I read about you working with Moser Energy, for example, but is that something that happens regularly?
It does. So 3 years ago, we were sitting down with CEO of Moser Energy at the time. His name is Peter Dawes, and Peter said, "Hey, can I bring some of my workers over and just kind of show them what we're doing?" I said, "This is awesome. I'm very, very interested in that." I have breakfast with John Johnson from Johnson Restaurant Group, who owns
everything.
Most of the restaurants, many restaurants. And he said, I was telling him that, I'm having these conversations with businesses. He said, well, count us in. We'll set up a culinary track for the young people where they can come to us and we'll teach them culinary. And then Rhonda Zimmerman and Greg Carroll at E&F Towing, Transport and Recovery said, hey, you can bring kids over and we'll teach them shop. So out of all of that, we now have 17 different business partners, and it grows. It's growing, where we are taking our young people offsite and they're putting 6-week tracks or 2 months tracks and giving them real career opportunities. Automation, electronics, the tanners. I mean, it goes on and on.
All right.
And so it was really listening to them. The heart behind it is to develop Casper's workforce. We want to develop Casper's workforce. And we've talked about this too, that a young person may still move out of Casper after they graduate high school. And our goal is for them to graduate high school with a plan. Now, a plan might be military, community college, university, trade school, or professional life. But let's graduate high school with a plan. And so if a youth ends up moving outside of Wyoming or leaving our Casper area for whatever reason, they may remember a relationship that they built at Moser Energy Systems,
true,
or with John Johnson and his chef, and say, you know what, I know that quality of life, and I grew up in Casper is a great place, and I remember those relationships from the business. So we see it as a mechanism too to draw the youth.
right
to our community and keep them in our community as well.
Absolutely. Those programs to help kids be work ready are vitally important.
Correct. Absolutely.
Especially with what we spoke about earlier about, the change in sociology, what's happening with our children today with cell phones and getting involved and being work ready when we graduate high school is super important.
Yes. And what's been cool about that program, we call it Career Works. We're crossing our third year, is Boys and Girls Club America. They have the career readiness. So they said, hey, send us everything that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So it ended up getting a national award.
All right.
The relationships and
interesting.
The build out that we're doing.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let's transition a little bit and talk a little bit more about Ashley.
Okay.
Now, in 1999, that's when you joined the Boys and Girls Club in Tacoma. No, 91, and
then 99 here.
In 99, you became the CEO here.
Yes. What
keeps you focused for 3 decades? Over 3 decades, it's a huge challenge. I mean, the impact is great, the testimony is great to see what's happening, but it's not absent of challenges. What keeps you on target?
Yes, and it's a great question, and there's not a simple answer. I mean, my relationship with the Lord, number one, the love my family's, beginning with my wife and my kids, and being able to have a driven profession that matches passion and compassion. That matches passion and compassion, and driving to the action is significant to the work that we do. And I praise God that I was able to raise kids and families, and now we have grandkids, and God is just all over that. And my wife is my greatest inspiration on this earth, and the relationship with the Lord is the call. And I always felt like if I couldn't see what tomorrow looks like in my profession, then that would be time for me to consider doing something else or crossing the finish line. But the challenges are always there. The ministry is alive, and the harvests are few. And I just got to be obedient in that area. And the relationships are incredible. So we have a Youth of the Year program, and we're doing Alumni Hall of Fame and capturing alumni. Well, some of the 70s Boys Club members here, they serve with us. They volunteer. They're bus drivers, and one of them, John Herman, he sends me a scripture every single day, and he was a Boys Club kid.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day, and then I've been here long enough now where I'm watching our kids become some of the best professionals in the region in Boys and Girls Clubs. So we were raising our kids up, and then they're considering Boys and Girls Club as their profession.
Right.
And again, they're some of the best professionals in this region. Pedro was a Boys and Girls Club member at age 5. And I'd known him. So in 99, he was 11, and he was massive in the clubs at 11 years old, and now he just stayed with us, and he runs our technology assistant branch director, and those stories are all through the organization. I mean, one of our top professionals, I knew her when she was 8 years old, and it just goes on. And now we've been here so long that now we have kids that are now parents, and they're bringing their kids, and then they turn to our staff just like they were kids for advice and resources and what should I do here. And so just building that up. And I always encourage young CEOs that kind of, 3 to 5 years, I want to do something else. But if you can stay, you can really see that fruit. And it's just a blessing every day. And I learn from them. I'm learning every day from them.
I've been honored to go to the last 2 or possibly 3 breakfasts you do at the Ford Center, the Wyoming Ford Center, and they're so inspiring. Whether it's the kids and their stories, and they're there to take their awards for what they're winning, or the people you bring in to speak, the special speakers.
Yeah.
They're incredibly inspiring, and you don't see that hour and a half go by at all, because you're sitting there like, this is an amazing organization that we have here and we're privileged to have here in Casper.
Yeah. Well, it is awesome. So in 1989, the first organization that we were aware of to do that formula was in Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Tacoma in 91. We have a development professional that joined our Tacoma team, and I was in a branch. So I'm in my early 20s and kind of just figured, but I was paying attention to what was happening. And so he came and he presented to the administration at the time, that the Boys and Girls Club in Tacoma and Pierce County, and said, hey, there's a really cool formula. They have a guest speaker, they honor an individual, and then they make an ask. Mm-hmm. And the first one that I was aware of was Steve Largent talking to, he was a Hall of Fame football player for the Seahawks, talking to the Seattle club in 89. Of course, I started in 91. So I saw that, and then I'm sitting there going, I'm in my early 20s, I'm thinking, if I ever become an executive director, that's going to be a formula that I would like to be a part of, or that I would like to see happen. And I saw there's the power of it, and
absolutely.
And so we started our one here. So I came in 99. There was just a few $1,000s in the bank, and we had $188,000 budget, and we had $330,000 in assets, because we had the A Street building, and then we had the 8th Street North Casper building, which is now the Iris Clubhouse, the Iris Club. That was our Boys and Girls Club. Okay. And then we had the Youth for Christ building, which is now Youth for Christ, but that was the building, Boys and Girls. And then we just had a few $1,000s in the bank. So when I interviewed in April of 99, and I didn't know what God was going to do, and I told them about this formula. So they said, oh my goodness, this is awesome. I think it would really work. So I get here, and the first one we ran was in September, the first one we did. And so we honored Newell Sargent. Now, Newell Sargent built that home. If you go to Laramie, there's this cathedral. It's a home right there for at-risk kids. Mm-hmm. And then he owned Pepsi. I mean, he was Pepsi for the state of Wyoming. Okay. And so that was our first honoree. We had 180 people, and we raised $10,000, and we were dancing the streets because we didn't. $180,000 budget. We just didn't have very much money, and so it's just been it's really
it's grown year after year.
It has. Yep. It has. Yes.
What's been the most challenging time in the last 35 years?
Yeah, it was easily the COVID, the COVID impact. So March 13th, Friday the 13th, 2020 is when we were getting word everything's shutting down. And so we were rallying quickly over that weekend. First Lady Jenny Gordon called me and said, hey, I put together a task force with Hunger Initiative. Will you be a part of that? Yes. We got our board members together remotely and said, okay, what are going to be priorities? And we said, well, let's serve food. So we had to close down our facilities for that 9.5 weeks. But we served food, and then we had program kits that went out, and we were doing things through YouTube, and we were connecting the staff, and we just had a phenomenal board of directors that really gave perspective on how we should navigate COVID. But I remember I was thinking, I was like, this is the hardest thing that I'll ever have to do in a Boys and Girls Club, is to shut down a facility for one day.
Sure.
And it easily was. And what was incredible was when I was in Tacoma, so we had the gangs, and I was part of a targeted gang outreach through the whole community. I was part of this team. And we decided at that time that we weren't going to have, the Bloods couldn't come in here, or the Crips couldn't come in here, that when you walked into a Boys and Girls Club, you had to respect yourself, respect others, respect the facility, respect the members and the staff. Mm-hmm. So it's all about respect. When you walk the building, that was going to be. So when the kids came in, they had like our kids had red masks, or red, face masks and red bandanas and whatnot. So we were taking them off. So fast forward,
Right.
we're putting masks back on kids. It was almost like it was a weird full circle for me.
Yeah.
Like I spent the first part of my career taking masks off of them so they can interact.
I get it.
And then now all of a sudden we're putting masks on kids, and then we're doing this. And then I'm like, I struggled with it. I can't tell you,
I'm sure,
how much it was a struggle for our whole organization. But we had to navigate, and we had to adhere. Following the school policies, but we knew we're autonomous from the schools, but we serve in the schools, so we just had to navigate. But the summer, that first summer where masks were we did not have any we didn't have one case. We had no masks that first summer, and we didn't have one case. So in the fall, this is all 2020, we went mask because we were back in the schools, and we were respecting the school policy. And we were like, well, if the main club didn't have masks, I mean, how? So we said, okay, well, let's just do that. But we're going to do it in common sense. We're going to run this. We're going to run in common sense, and that's how we did it. But that summer was really interesting. We did not require the mask, and we didn't have one case.
One case. But I can imagine psychologically that would have been tough for you, because full circle of trying to break down those barriers and bring people together and encourage communication, develop community, and then having to, install separation through the mask and 6 foot distancing and all the things that are contrary to what you're trying to do. Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And now we're seeing kids from that era that are in clubs, and kids that almost have been born in that era. And because we start at 5, and we're not quite those kids exactly born in 2020, we're not quite seeing them, maybe a few.
Yeah.
And we're seeing some impact on it from it. We are definitely seeing some impact.
I'm sure. Yeah. That's what we have to work on that.
Right. Exactly. As
a society.
Right.
Because it's impacted a lot of people.
Right. Exactly.
Not wanting to go back to work. More and more people wanting remote work only, because they don't want to be in. I mean, people still wearing masks today for sometimes there's valid reasons, so you shouldn't judge. Sure. But sometimes they're not valid, and sometimes they're just scared.
Sure.
Because fear is I think the biggest issue of that period.
Right.
The fear
it absolutely was.
Yeah. Whether how serious or not COVID was, that's debatable, but however serious it was, what was more serious was the fear that it created.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we wanted to be really respectful during that time. And that was important in our society, was we need to be respectful and be safe.
Right.
And our priorities are always safety in the programming and in the environment that we have. So we wanted to set an example of safety all the way through. And we did. And we did.
So fast forward 35 years now.
Yeah.
Do you measure success differently for you and for your organization as you possibly did 35 years ago when you just got into this time?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I mean, one of my goals, I'm in easily the back third of my professional career, and I don't know where that's going to all land. I'll always be working at some level. I can't ever see myself not,
retirement. What's that?
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. So our goal is to just continue to develop leaders. We need to develop leaders that are gonna have the values and be that light for the community and be difference makers, be relationship builders. And so that's a charge of mine, and succession planning and all of those important business plans and being strategic all happens in that realm of building the leaders, building community, strengthening the mission, making sure that we have sustainable funding. One of the things, Eric, that we did in 2002, and Mick McMurray and Drew Perkins and Rod Hill and Matt Castle and George Benson and Brandy Pop, who we had hired right at that time, we put together a 501c3 foundation. So we're focusing on the foundation. It's an quasi endowment model where we're building dollars, and then annually a 5% spill off will impact our operations. And so we've set the goals to where the spill off will impact at least 15% of our operating budget.
Right.
And that is a very significant point. That's a very significant charge in our organization right now. So we need to stay on that. Put the pedal or the foot to the pedal and
right.
put the gas on it
right.
and keep rolling in that area.
Right.
Yes.
So today it's become more of a generational outlook. It's like it's not just when Ashley's done or it's not done. It's what's happening in the next generation and
yes,
further on.
Completely. And the fact that we have Boys and Girls Club kids that grew up in the club and that are some of the great professionals in the region and in the country, I would say, are all with us. And I mean, it's a powerful view of what's happening in the Boys and Girls Club because of that.
You mention a word quite often, and people write about it as well, about beloved communities.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Yes. So it means to me that we're thriving everywhere. Families are healthy. Kids are being served. We have good systems in place for society, that barriers are broken, that nobody's excluded, that we're all together, that and that Christ is glorified. I mean, there's a spiritual element to that statement as well, and so I think those are the aspects that it means to me, and the business community is very much a part of driving some of those factors.
That's great.
Those factors that make us a beloved community, and that's my heart.
Is the Boys and Girls Club, is it a religious organization or not at all?
It's really a secular organization. I mean, if you looked at
right
that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now the churches were very involved with it from the beginning.
Okay.
And my heart has been to connect the churches today, and we've been able to do that through many ways. I mean, building those relationships, and then having volunteers, and having the churches be a part of events, and such as youth groups planning late night teen nights, or we did this uprising years ago where we had this music fest, and we were a big part of that.
Okay.
So it's practical ministry. We have good news clubs. We have FCA involved. We really do gather those Christian organizations that would see our environment as a partnership, and we bring them in. So that's really how we
got it.
Address that. And when I received the Lord, and then this call the Boys and Girls Club, and we were just praying through, and the Holy Spirit, and I was just in prayer, and really since the Lord saying and just speaking and just showing through the Word that just trust me, and the ministry is coming. The ministry is at hand, and trust me, and I'm going to open these doors, and I'm going to allow things to go on, and just be obedient, if you will, and so that's been my heart towards the work that we do at the Boys and Girls Club.
But those doors seem to be open even outside of these, Christian circles where you with the school district. And
completely.
So do you have to change the way you communicate when you're in this, or are you true to yourself?
Yeah, not at all. And we are true to ourselves. And we, if when you look at those laws, and in 62 and 63 is when, this movement of no devotion, no opening prayer in the schools, but saying all that, if it's initiated by the students, Bible studies can happen and groups can come in.
Got it.
And so that's Youth for Christ can have centers in the schools, and FCA, and you just watch God move on leadership and such in those schools, and so the doors are open. The doors are open for spiritual teaching and such, and then there's a movement, and I've been studying this a little bit in Oklahoma and Tennessee and Texas, where there's a biblical teaching now in curriculum in the schools, and so I've been doing some research on that a little bit too, and just seeing how they're doing that, what they're doing, and then there's several superintendents that I talked to about this too as well.
So what does the future look like? You have a 5-year or 10-year outlook, and are things is the WyoTown is it part of that future?
It is, yes. So WyoTown, our goal for WyoTown is to reach the state, and it was going to take WyoTowns to be kind of positioned around the state to do that. Right now, those 8 counties are all coming into Casper, and so we're looking at some of the models where there are some different locations for those WyoTowns. So yes, we want to go statewide with WyoTown. We serve, with everything that we do, we'll serve 700 to 800 kids a day in the different things that we do. We want to move that number. I mean, we want to move that number and look at communities that talk to the Boys and Girls Club and ask if what would it mean to have a Boys and Girls Club in our community, and then do some assessment. Right now, we have an assessment going on in Saratoga, Wyoming. So that may be a Boys and Girls Club someday.
Okay.
So there's a whole process for us to do our due diligence. It's very strategic. It is from leadership to funding possibilities to location to need in building case. So looking at those communities, continuing to look at those communities. Don't have Boys and Girls Clubs because we know the need and we know the impact.
So do you have a number in terms of, like, you're reaching 13,000 today? Do you have a target for what the next few years looks like?
I mean, we talk about we want every kid to be exposed in a Boys and Girls Club. So we've talked about within 10 years. I mean, what could that number be? 20,000, and what would that look like? And would that be 3 more communities coming on, and the networking with the other Boys and Girls Club organizations around the state is really critical too.
How can we support your work? How can people? Because I know you have a reverse raffle. What are the different things you do to raise donations?
Yes. So the breakfast is the culmination of an individual giving campaign, and so we actually are in that drive now. We're pointing to September 17th, and this year Barbara Cuban is going to be the honoree, and Will Reeve, who is Christopher and Dana Reeve's son. Christopher Reeve, the Superman from the 1980s, and then the accident, and then
the best Superman in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Hands down.
So Will is 6'4". He looks just like his dad. He's on.
All right.
Yeah, he's in the media. And he does documentaries, and he's an actor. But he also was a Boys and Girls Club kid.
Okay.
Because Chris and Dana passed away when he was 13 years old.
Oh, I didn't know.
Dana passed away a year and a half after Christopher, and Will Reeve was 12 years old at that time. So he was kind of orphaned.
Right. Wow.
And he went to the Boys and Girls Club. So he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Of the Boys and Girls Club.
I did not know that. Wow.
So there's a whole that, and then Barbara Cuban is a Wyoming icon. So we're really excited for the breakfast. So we have the giving. We're in our giving drive, and then there's an ask at the breakfast. So those are ways that we raise funds. Our goal is to have 30% of our budget raised through individuals, through individual giving, and that can encompass foundations as well. And then the other piece, our general contribution through events. We have small fees that we have in the summer, and because we're a 12-month program, but we don't turn anybody away for financial reasons. But that's a little bit of it, and then there's just some different funding sources that make up our budget. So, but the very best is to have a budget that's individually influenced by the individual donor and the individual giving.
30%.
And so we're we're not relying on grants to fund. Grants come and go, and now there's so many cuts going on that the organizations that are relying on grants are really, really almost in crisis.
Yeah.
So we've been able to work hard through individual giving, so that we may be challenged, but we're not in crisis. And then that whole foundation charge is incredibly important for the future.
Have you ever thought about legacy? And imagine 25 years from now, when you're no longer, most likely not, in leadership of Boys and Girls Club. How do you want your tenure in Boys and Girls Club to be remembered?
Yeah, John Freeman talked to me about this. So he started the Wyoming Community Foundation, and he gave me a business perspective on that. He said, you need, your legacy has to be in the succession. He said, so many times in Wyoming, we've hired people from out of state to come in and do this job, and it just has not worked. And so he really and I see him as one of my mentors, and he just said, that's got to be your number one priority as you may be crossing the finish line someday. So that's really on my heart. But more importantly, it's I would love for people to. My dream is for people to just say, he did it the best he could, and the relationship with the Lord was present, and those are. I mean, that's just kind of a cheesy way to say something like this, but
I love it.
I'm thankful for my wife Allison and my kids, and that God placed me in a profession where I can raise an awesome family and have the support and do what God's called, and it's all kind of really pulled together.
Convergence.
Yes.
I love it. So
yeah,
if someone's listening to this podcast and they want to donate today, do you have an outlet on your website?
We do.
Where do we find you?
Website is bgccw.org. My cell phone number is 307-267-1406. Call or come by. We'd love to give you a tour of the Boys and Girls Club, talk impact, answer questions that you have regarding the Boys and Girls Club.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Ashley, very much for joining us today.
I really enjoyed it.
Yes. All right. Yes. And thank you for joining us on this edition. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you.